Hey everybody, welcome on back. It's Rubbin is Racing. It's brought to you by NASCAR. NASCAR is rolling into Loudon, New Hampshire this weekend. We're about to get loud at the Miracle Mile. It's this Sunday, the 16th of July. Coverage starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's on USA, right? We made the jump from Fox to NBC a couple weeks ago, so this will be on USA. So we'll be at the Miracle Mile. It's shaping up to be a very good race. We just came off of a very good race in Atlanta that we're going to break down 100%. But make sure you tune in this weekend, 2:30 p.m. on Sunday on USA for the Crayon 301, the Crayon 301 from New Hampshire. So one thing that I have to say is I dropped my kid off this weekend in Massachusetts, and he's going to spend the next 2 weeks hiking the White Mountains between Massachusetts and New Hampshire without, he's going to be sleeping in tents, no electronics, no anything. So Andy and I dropped him off, and then we stayed in a cabin with absolutely no creature comforts. It was just his cabin with a huge bay window looking out into the forest. It was absolutely beautiful. So I didn't get to watch the race live, and I picked the wrong week to miss a race. So it was a hell of a race. And from what I understand, since we've been traveling the past couple of weeks, I'm hearing that NBC is doing a hell of a job broadcasting this race. So I was able to catch it afterwards because obviously I had taped it and whatnot. And so I'm all caught up. But how was it live? How was it watching the race live? Before I should start, everyone's here. Quigsy just ran in Greta Thunberg's 16th birthday. Then he came straight from there. We got Spider live and direct in Chicago. We got Liam behind the ones and twos. And we have Jessie Punch coming up in a little bit. We're going to go 3 wide with Jessie Punch, who does just about everything for NASCAR. But getting back to this weekend down in Hotlanta, what did you guys think of the broadcast? What did you think of the actual race?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, maybe it's because I nailed the William Byron outright pick, but I felt really good about the entire race.
Hold on a second. Was that 30 seconds before he said he nailed the pick? Did he go 30 seconds?
I have more. I have more.
Because I'm going to say, I have a segment planned out. Congratulating. Spider leapfrogged me in the standings. Quiggs is like a William Byron win. Yeah. I mean, we're distant second and thirds. But you leapfrogged me with the Byron pick, and there was a little bit of, I don't know, smoke around whether or not you could brag about it.
I was going to say nailing. We did not nail the William, but we got ass backwards a win into that. We did not nail that.
I'm glad you're saying this now, Quiggs, because that was only 1% of the credit I was going to take. Regardless of how the race ended, I think we had it nailed. It could have ended with rain.
We were fucked if that race kept going.
With Brad Kay or fucking Chris Buescher, who both led laps. Yeah. I had RFK team to win. Who finished second? Was it Daniel Suarez from Trackhouse, who I also gave outright? Yeah. So go ahead, keep discrediting my win. We keep
won.
Discrediting me. Keep discrediting me.
I wanted to.
I was pretty spot on and locked in.
Nailed it.
I had the script.
You had a bunch of guys up there. You needed that race to end on rain. Those were people who were on just like different cycles. If they would have to go back green.
Large.
But I will say,
this is how it goes. Like, you get a scoop right, you get a pick right. There's never any love. It's disgusting.
It's
even
just
from
your terminology. Nailing it, we didn't
your
nail
own
it.
Guys.
We're gonna get to both of those, but I think no matter what had happened, you had the winner. You cashed this week, and then whenever one of us cashes, it's exciting to put it out there. Hey, we cashed, right? It doesn't happen enough, and wouldn't you know it that when we needed a win, we didn't need to. I don't give a shit if aliens came down and stop the race. We needed a goddamn win, and we got one as a team. But we weren't allowed to talk about it potentially because the Barstool Sportsbook is going through some maintenance for a couple of days. So the Sportsbook was down, and so we were given the order, hey, listen, let's not talk about gambling while the Sportsbook is down because obviously people can't run to the Sportsbook, blah, blah, blah. But we broke the rules. Like, it didn't matter, so we put it out there, right? And I retweeted it to just the same as everybody else. You know, because screw it. I don't care if you need to get a bet in. It's more important that you find out that we actually hit on one.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
Yeah, especially when it's long odds. If we hit like a plus 100, maybe we keep our mouth shut. But I hit a 750. Spiders was 1,400. You got to share that.
Absolutely. So congratulations to you two guys. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
And whether
also,
or not, go ahead.
In that regard, with the Barstool Sportsbook, I'm 99% sure we'll be back live in time for this weekend's slate, which is going to be awesome. And I'm very optimistic about the potential we have with creating fun one-off bets on the Barstool Sportsbook. Now, basically what happened was we migrated to our own odds provider rather than using one that a lot of sportsbooks use. So hopefully that should result in us being able to do much more lucrative, creative boosts and NASCAR plays and have a bigger NASCAR market. I mean, we already kind of were P1 in terms of gambling and sports books covering NASCAR. Barstool Sportsbook was P1 in my opinion, and hopefully we can just build on that lead.
And the numbers have reflected it. I think across the board, motorsports gambling has been the biggest segment of sports, biggest increased segment of sports gambling last year. Right? Yeah, so motorsports. So it's something that we're trying to put a priority on, as you guys know with us every week. And to Spider's point, the book is rolling out already. We're taping this on Wednesday afternoon. Quiggs had sent me some lines from his laptop. I wasn't able to get anything on the mobile platform yet. But by the time the weekend comes around, you guys should be able to find the best lines at the Barstool Sportsbook. So make sure you get them.
I think in theory by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, probably.
But
yeah, I think so.
Things don't always work well here, so.
All right, we'll get back to the actual race. We know that the race was actual barn burner, but we'll get back to the race. But before we do, we'll get some headlines out of the way. And this is another thing that Spider had alluded to. Spidey put up there, Spidey Scoops, had a little scoop that he had then taken down just to save potential his source. And as soon as you take this thing down, Bob Pockris throws the thing back up again. Which hurts my heart. So Pockris is late on this report to Spidey Scoops, but he's talking about the potential international venues, which we hadn't mentioned anything really in depth. But first, Pockris had said that NASCAR has talked to the Meadowlands to see if it would be feasible to set up a course that would have New York City in the background. I can't tell you how that shouldn't be discounted, because one of the better things about that Chicago street race, I thought, is that when we all turned around and started to take a picture and we had the Chicago skyline in the background, it was fucking awesome. It was something that I don't think you can put a price on that. It was cool. So in theory, it sounds very good, but it doesn't seem that the logistics will be able to get that deal done. So the Meadowlands seems to be shelved for now. But then Pockris went on to say that industry personnel have indicated that they've been told to get their passports ready to race in Canada as early as next year, which is something that you had mentioned earlier as well, Spider. But he also mentioned a Canadian Grand Prix spokeswoman confirmed that they've had preliminary conversations with NASCAR regarding a cup race in Montreal, and those conversations have been ongoing for quite some time. So now the cat's officially out of the bag, right? Thank you to you first. Thank you to Bob secondly. And then obviously having a little bit more detail for us. How do you guys feel about going to Montreal next year? I've been to Montreal a couple times on business back in my former life. I love that town. I got a shitload of restaurants we can go to. I love Montreal. How do you guys feel about going up?
I'm pumped. I mean, I think the last time NASCAR went international was like in the late 90s when they went to Japan. I think this is awesome. When I tweeted that, the Canadian audience seemed to really pick it up and be receptive of it, which I think is great. And to me, that's the name of the game. And what we're trying to do here is just get people more excited and engaged in the NASCAR Cup Series. So that being said, I think it's going to be awesome. And I also think I can confirm it will be Montreal. It will be 2024. And it's likely 90% going to replace the Fontana date. And as you said, Large, other places are being discussed. I said Portland, New York City, Brooklyn, Meadowlands area, and then Mexico City. So I'd love to see us continue with the international trends, whether it be Montreal, Mexico City, whatever. I think NASCAR's great track record, and they've proven that they can really thrive and succeed with creating these new events, whether it be the LA Clash, Chicago Street Race, or either of the things I just outlined. So I'm here for it all, especially hearing that you have some great spots you want to take us to. I just need to touch up on my French a little.
Yeah. Do you parlez-vous français?
Hello, bonjour. That's about all I know.
Quicks, will you get your ass on a plane if it's in Montreal?
Yeah, I just got my passport, so I got about 10 years of passport. I've heard great things about Montreal. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I think Quiggs in Montreal will be a legend.
To no shocker, I've never had a passport and never left the country.
Really?
So, yeah. This could be the first.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity.
Everybody always tells you to get one, and there's no reason to if you don't go on vacation.
No, you should always have a passport.
Why?
Because of the last minute thing. The one time that you needed last minute, like I've had it where my passport had expired, I didn't know it, and I need to go to like Frankfurt 2 days later. And back in the day, Wound Up Citigroup, I worked for at the time, said we have somebody that can run that through. So they paid this guy, I think like $800. I had a passport that day, renewed. That never happens. That guy does not. He's an expediter. Like he shows up in like black glasses and all of a sudden your passport, I don't even know if it's legal. But when you need one, it's impossible to get it. So that's the only reason why I say have one. Right. Even if you never get it stamped. Yeah. Well, you need to, because if it's replacing Fontana, that's early in the season.
Yeah, I'm not sure about if they're going to move around the dates or whatnot, but that is the race that is being dropped, and then Montreal is coming in, from what I've been told from very trustworthy sources. That being said, also been told word for word, make sure you have a passport ready from very similar, respectable sources. So I'm excited.
Let's go. Second headline, Corey LaJoie and Spire Motorsports are finalizing a multi-year contract extension. That's according to The Athletic. The deal is expected to be completed in the coming weeks. So Corey's obviously been a very interesting character this season in particular. Last season, Corey was more of a punk. Remember we were talking about him wrecking everybody? And now it seemed like he's starting to build up his respect more as a driver, particularly this season, and getting a ride in that 9 for the one race. But he's always kind of been an outperformer. Is this a good headline for Corey LaJoie? Or is it one of those ones where maybe he was hoping for that leap to a different car? There isn't one open, right, for him to necessarily jump into. So is this how do you react to this? Is this positive?
I think he kind of needs to be a Spire guy. Like, for his brand, like, you can't be stacking pennies, little wins, and go to RCR, or like make a jump like that, Joe Gibbs. I think you kind of, and I think he's very tied to Spire and like wants to build that and wants to kind of just grow and stay there. So I think it's kind of what he needed to do. I think the headline of him going somewhere else would be a very weird thing.
Go ahead.
I think Quiggs hit the nail on the head. They seem like perfect for each other. I think Corey LaJoie's kind of like, middle of the road driver, and they're kind of like a middle of the road team. We've seen him in good equipment, and I think he even said himself that he didn't perform as well as he thought or he wanted to. So I'm not going to judge the whole guy's career based off, seldom opportunities and good equipment, but I do agree with Quiggs when I think it seems like a pretty good match.
Yeah, and I think him having a bad race in the 9, you shouldn't use that as a measuring stick when there's such a bigger measuring stick that Corey LaJoie does outperform in cars that he shouldn't be outperforming in. And I think that's extraordinary, so let's give him credit where credit is due. So I think this is a great headline for him. So congratulations once they get this deal done. I hope he gets a bag. Busch Light leaves Stuart Haas, which everyone knew. I mean, when they had introduced Josh Berry, they said they were looking at new, sponsors and whatnot. But Busch Light put out probably one of the most obvious teasers by showing a can of Busch Light and a watermelon rolling through and saying we have an announcement coming up. And then sure enough, the announcement is that they agreed as primary sponsor with Trackhouse Racing and Ross Chastain starting in 2024. This is good news, right? I mean, we know
We also talked about this.
Yeah.
Like in one of the first episodes we did.
Yeah, who should be the guy?
Should be Busch, and
we
said Chastain.
And we know that, Busch Light, we drink way too many Busch Lights, particularly at the track. Original Busch beer, I haven't seen one of those in a long time, but I've been known to slug those. They still have Busch Light Ice.
Oh, yeah, that was like our college beer.
6% ABV.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6% ABV Busch Light Ice. They discontinued the apple. They have the Busch non-alcoholic. They have Busch Light Peach this season, which apparently people like. I can't stand peach flavor. It almost tastes like perfume to me. So is it inevitable to have Busch Light watermelon next year? I think it's a great idea.
Oh, that would be disgusting.
Yeah. more disgusting
than
peach.
I love Busch Light. Busch Light's my favorite.
It's more disgusting than peach. It's not, right?
I guess not, but peach is probably also
Did you ever have the apple? I've never had
No, but I could see that being good.
There were TikToks where guys would buy a crate of 30 racks of them.
Really?
When they were going discontinued. Yeah, would buy 50, 30 racks.
It had a
keep
cult
them
following.
in their garage. Yeah.
But hard cider's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So apple has
so.
been around.
I don't know. I've never had one though.
Really?
Yeah.
No passport, never a hard cider?
Oh, no. I have. Yeah, no, a Busch Light apple, I'm saying.
Right, yeah, neither have I. But, I mean, that almost makes sense. Spider, Busch Light watermelon. Me and you at the track. It's very, very hot. We're in Nashville. You know how hot it gets there. Someone offers you a Busch Light watermelon. How do you feel about it?
I think that's one of those drinks where you could probably only do like one or two. I don't know if I'd want to get fully drunk off that flavor. That being said, I'm not a marketing genius either. I kind of think that they should hold out. It seems too easy to make the watermelon beer.
Oh no, they'll do it though. Busch is very.
I know they're going to do it, but I don't.
Not
I'm saying,
gimmicky
I don't think
with their cans, but like, I don't know. I remember like in college we thought that like they would always have like a find the golden can.
Yeah,
or like,
I was going to say that.
Like we were just
that was
like
the best.
We would pretend like we were like entering into a competition every time. Like it was like find the golden can and win an ATV or something. It was like, what the fuck are we gonna do with the ATV? But we would just be looking for the golden can.
They could probably have a nice little marketing push for free if they just didn't drop the watermelon beer right away. And they had all these Ross Chastain fans clamoring, kind of like they were on Twitter when this announcement came out, saying, hey, bring us the watermelon beer. It's almost so obvious that like doing it right away to me would just kind of like, I don't know. I think they could probably juice the watermelon a little bit more if they build up some anticipation and some desire within the fan base. I'm also extremely concerned about Stewart-Haas Racing losing one of their massive sponsors. I know they're working hard to fill that gap there, but I don't know. I think they need a little jump start, and this certainly doesn't help. So I'm going to continue rooting for them hard, but hopefully they can get another flagship massive sponsor. And I'd love to see our guy Chase Briscoe with a household brand on the side of his car, or something that all the fans can get behind.
Yeah, 100% agreed. This is my prediction, to Spider's point. Maybe not the watermelon beer right away, but I think Busch Light then goes into the hard seltzer game, and the first hard seltzer is the watermelon flavored, right? The Trackhouse Ross Chastain watermelon flavored hard seltzer Busch Light. I mean, that seems like it'd be easy. Give me one of those with a floater of vodka, and I'll be good.
And also, if I don't know who all owns which beer companies, but I think there's some potential there. I know this is about Chastain. I would love to see maybe the parent company that owns Busch throw on, if they have Corona or Modelo in their portfolio, maybe see that on a Suarez car. I think that would be awesome to see. There's a lot of potential there with both drivers that Trackhouse has. So I'm very excited for what's to come.
This next headline hits home because this podcast, as you guys know, is sponsored by Coca-Cola, and we enjoy Coca-Cola. This is the Coke Zero that I have just about every episode. But Sports Biz Journal this week reported that Goodyear's NASCAR tire deal is the most recognized sponsorship in all of sports. The most recognized sponsorship in all of sports. So when they polled so many people, the sponsorship that goes hand in hand with the sport is not Bud Light in the NFL, which is probably the one that I would have guessed. Who's the biggest sponsor in the in Major League Baseball? Maybe because
after watching the home run derby, I'd say it's probably T-Mobile. They seem to have the whole fucking
but you don't think like MLB T-Mobile.
But I think maybe because it's so spread out, there is no one answer.
Yeah.
Like there's so many. I think, just because of the Bud Light, the jumping up and down, robot, all that kind of stuff, I thought that went hand in hand. But people are saying now that the biggest, most recognizable sponsor to sport is Goodyear to NASCAR. I think that's awesome. And you know what the number 2 is?
Wait, let me guess, because there was one that came to my head.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't even know what the league would be, but like tennis and Rolex, like that big Rolex.
That's a great guess. The Rolex with tennis.
Because I feel like that's every tennis match has that big clock that I don't even really know what it does, but it's like in the background of everything.
Boxing and Modelo. Modelo is big with boxing. But the number 2, and this I think is very impressive, the number 2 brand to sport relationship recognizable is Coca-Cola and NASCAR.
Really?
That's fantastic. So Coca-Cola and NASCAR are hand in hand. And when I say that they're running second to Goodyear tire, right? The wheels of the car. And then it's Coca-Cola. I find that to be pretty impressive. And what's more impressive is I think part of that reason is because they're our sponsor. Since we've become the official podcast of Coca-Cola and NASCAR, Coca-Cola is now the second most recognizable sponsor to sport thing. So we're very proud to have, and this is according to the Sports Business Journal for people who want to look this up. So we're extremely proud to have Coke on board. We're extremely proud to drink Coke at every one of these races. And is it the best Coke ever? There's only one way to find out. Go take a taste for yourself. Before we get to Sunday's race, I want to say congrats to John Hunter. John Hunter Nemechek, he had won the Xfinity race in OT on Saturday, and it made him the first driver at Atlanta Motor Speedway to have a win on the old surface and the new. That's going to be a trivia question somewhere down the road, and it's John Hunter Nemechek. So he's the first one to get it on both. This is where I wanted to throw in the betting update, but I'm not going to now because it's hurting my heart. Spider is now the second best bettor in the room. I am the worst bettor in the room after this weekend, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling. There was a couple of weeks ago where I seemed to have the script. I don't know what race it was, but I had everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what race it was. I just about everybody.
And not even like normal picks. Like you had an Allmendinger top 5.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah.
And I need to get back there. I don't know what it is. I'm ice cold. But we're going to get to that at picking the tires at the end. As the boys started to talk about at the beginning of the show, Sunday was a very good day. It was a very good day. To start the day, we saw Richard Childress in the 29, flanked by Harvick in the 4, doing that intro lap. And it was the 29. They pulled it out of the museum. It was the one that Harvick drove to beat Jeff Gordon like 3 weeks after Dale had died at Daytona. And Harvick had won at Atlanta. So it's that one that we had mentioned in the paint scheme show. I had mentioned when Harvick was driving it in North Wilkesboro one more time for the 29. And so to see Childress driving that thing, at one point he had his elbow out the window.
Oh, he looked so cool doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but something about it was like he just looked so nonchalant and cool doing it.
And those things are not easy to get in and out of. Right? And this isn't like a in-shape guy, young in-shape guy jumping in and out. But, man, once he got in that car, and the place went bananas when they saw it. So, and again, I wish I would have saw it live, but it is what it is. The race starts. If you guys can't watch a race, if you're on the road, can I give you guys a suggestion? Follow Rubbin is Racing.
Please.
Follow Rubbin is Racing. I think, we have Quiggs on that. We have this kid Chase on that. They do a very good job just kind of giving you a feel of what the hell's going on if you can't be sitting down in front of a TV. It helped me out a lot this week, so I highly recommend it. But from the beginning, guys, tell me how this race had gone. Tell me about the competitiveness and the whole deal, which made this one of the better races of the year and one of the more frustrating ends of the season.
You want to take it, Spider? Or
Why don't you start?
Okay, I'm there. I think this was maybe one of the most exciting races of the season. It was just so aggressive, and like the track was very good for like passing. People could pass. People were forming lines, and it was very like super speedway-esque, but you didn't have to stay in line. It was, and everybody was just so aggressive. Like the stage 1 finish was like, and it was like it was for the final lap. I think the rain was very it played a big part in just like people didn't know when the race was going to end.
But was that stage 1 thing? So Blaney and Larson. So Blaney had just, I don't know, I think he just passed Logano.
Yeah, Logano was holding the lead for pretty much all of stage 1 except for that final lap.
Larson basically comes out of nowhere, and then it's all of a sudden Blaney Larson, and then Blaney edges him by maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet to win stage 1. Was it NBC's coverage that like kind of got you into that? Because they sort of had like that photo finish.
Yeah.
To it. I've never seen that before.
So I will say about the coverage, I think where they killed it really was in stage 2 because of the rain. It was such a like pit cycle tire fuel battle of the guys that were really really just depending on the rain to end it, and they just did an awesome job of showing last pit. They had the like fuel graphics when they would need to pit. It was very informative to like let you know this driver can maybe survive 10 more laps, but after that he's going to the back of the field because he's putting all his eggs in this basket. I don't know. I think they did a great job on it.
I think the reconfiguration of Atlanta has been awesome thus far. It's basically turned it into like a plate track, which if you guys listen to the show and know the kind of fan I am, I live for those kind of races. Like Quigg said, passing opportunities were, immense. And the drama was too. We saw William Byron spin very early on. I thought my day was over. And he ended up having to play into the pit and range strategy. And as much as people were critical of that, one, look at the Daytona race last year where they didn't stop it and the leaders all wrecked and there was like a 20-car pile up. I think it was the right move. And two, not that I root for this, but like when there is rain in play, I think it adds a whole nother like factor, which a lot of times is exciting. More times is exciting than not. I know it sucks when you have, a betting card with 10 guys or whatever it may be, and those bets are impacted. But at the end of the day, part of racing is the pit strategy and preparing for what's ahead, whether it be tire wear or, an ominous cloud on the horizon. So to me, I'm trying to see it half full. I think that it kind of brought another level of excitement and worries for these drivers to have to deal with. And yeah, I would have loved to see it run the full race, but at the same time, what we got was fine with me. I thought it was very exciting, as Quigg said, probably one of the best races of the season, in my opinion.
I think people just wanted it to go a little bit longer. Like, not saying we get into a Daytona situation where starts to be heavy rain, because I don't think we ever got that heavy rain. Like, I was listening to Denny, and Denny was saying on Actions Detrimental, like, he didn't even see anything on his windshield. Like, other people had said they had gotten hit with a couple of drops. And so, the time that they spent under caution probably could have been time spent racing.
Yeah.
But there's no way to tell that. Like, there's no way to tell whether or not the weather system is going to blow off or it's not as big as what people had thought. So did the fact that a few people, like, Rudy Fugle having Byron pit at lap 125 makes him look like a fucking genius. Makes him look like a guy who understands weather and understands racing.
Well, that pit was, I think, because of the blown tire. So he didn't have a choice.
And then I think Kyle Busch had pitted also at that time too. But are these guys geniuses? Are they working with the weather? Or is it just a luck thing?
Oh, I think that's total luck.
Oh, it's total luck. Okay.
At least like that early in the race. Like,
right.
Knowing they definitely made the smart move of when Byron was up at the top. And like if they thought the race was going full, they would have pitted, but they kind of said we're either going to be out of this race or we're going to win it by the rain. And like, there was no point where Byron really could have pitted at the end of that race.
Let's give him some credit, because Spider alluded to it. Byron didn't start well. He started in the 18th, right? His 18th position to start the race.
Yep.
And then they had the safety violation, right, which pushed him back. Then he had the spin at lap 80, which pushed him all the way back. And then he clawed his way back up front. Yeah. So, and that's with a car that was partially damaged.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to your point, maybe that's why they needed to call it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been as competitive just physically inside that car. So give William Byron all the credit in the world, and, Hendrick and all those guys all the credit in the world. But he also got extremely lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got extremely lucky. And, I guess that's how it goes. Right? But now you're looking at 3 weeks in a row. We were down in Nashville, and they moved the start time. I think it wound up being only like 17 or 18 minutes. But NASCAR did have to move the start time because Nashville looked like it could start pouring or lightning at any second. Then you go to Chicago, where they had to, stop that one race extremely early. Then they stopped the Cup race, relatively early also. And then you go right into Atlanta, where you had the same thing happen. They just had to get the 130 laps in. And now we're going to New Hampshire, and there's been flooding all over, New England,
Vermont.
this whole week. So we might get fucked again this week. Mother Nature hates NASCAR.
I'm team. They're doing a good job. I know people are saying, don't make these races prime time, or if you do, then you better have every effort to get the race resumed super late at night. I don't know. I'd rather see primetime races with a little bit of rain. That's something you can't really control. So I can live with that, impacting the race. And to your guys' point about luck versus strategy, I think we've seen both. Definitely guys like William Byron got a little bit lucky with the way things shook out this past weekend. But then I don't want to discredit Kyle Busch, who was kind of first at Chicago to realize, hey, there's no way we have enough light for this race. And he ended up getting, I think, a top 5 out of it. So I think that, like I said previously, that's almost something that makes these races more exciting, if that's your perspective. I think people need to stop having a dump in their pants and start looking at things a little bit brighter.
And absolutely. And maybe there can be a pivot. Like if they want to do these things in prime time on a Saturday, especially in these dog days of summer. If you think that going later may bring in some rain at some of the locations, then go prime time on a Saturday. So if you have to run it on Sunday, people can still watch it and not have to go to work. I mean, there's also things. And by the way, Kyle Busch, we can't say enough about him. I think this is his 7th top 10 finish in a row. So Kyle Busch is on a goddamn heater. But yeah, so congratulations to William Byron. His 8th career win. That's 8 wins at 7 different tracks. His only duped win track is Atlanta. Otherwise, this kid's been pretty prolific, right? I mean, he's been doing it just about everywhere. He's won 2 of the last 4 races at Atlanta. This is Hendrick's 6th win this season. I'm going to ask you guys right away. I'm probably going to ask our guests later on. Are you sick of the big hats? I'm starting to get sick of the big hats. I'm just putting it out there. You're not? You are a little bit?
No, I am. Okay. And the public's getting sick of it, too, on Twitter,
I'm here
I
for
think.
it. I'm here for it.
Spider, I want to talk. Go ahead.
I just think that William Byron, I mean, I love him to death. He's a hell of a driver. He's proven himself this year and in the past. But everyone's always super critical of these drivers. They need more personality. Sure, I think that it is, a little bit repetitive and tired. But at the same time, it's becoming a tradition. Like, if you win, you can do whatever the hell you want as far as I'm concerned.
True.
And if people are going to be upset about a stupid, big, dumb hat, I think that's kind of pathetic. I think they just let him enjoy the win, as they should let me enjoy the win, and not say, oh, it was rain shortened. You didn't have the script.
But it's not funny anymore.
No, I think if he
it's
wins
not funny, but
if he wins it all and it's like recognizable though,
Yeah.
then it becomes cool again. I feel like
Sets up his brand.
yeah.
I won't knock these drivers for attempting to have personality. I think our sport needs more of
Big
it.
hat's
So
not
I will.
personality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his attempt at it. Granted, I'm with you. It could be a little bit
You should get a
stronger.
bigger hat.
Yeah, he
It's
should
the-
just keep
every
making it
every
bigger.
win, the hat should get bigger. That's
I'm with
I think
that.
the solution.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like that.
Yeah,
We should
so
pitch that
I'm
too.
not into the big hats anymore. And again, I have the gimmick, the wine on the head that people hate. Every time I put it up, people love it, some people hate it. So I know, this running gimmick thing. But if he goes bigger and bigger each time, to where essentially he's wearing a sombrero-sized baseball cap, count me in. Anybody else like up or down, over or under this week, Spider, that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I got a couple. Predominantly just overs. McDowell looked great. I mean, he's a guy that's kind of typically a middle of the pack runner, but at the plate tracks, I mean, he's won the Daytona 500, and then here again at Atlanta, he looked really strong. He finished 4th. Also taking the over on William Byron, who spun then won. He's 4 on the season now, leads in wins, and he's probably the championship favorite. Daniel Suarez, I said Trackhouse, I picked them to win plus 1,100. He finished P2, and I think he, was looking really strong.
He needed
and then
that.
RFK.
He needed that. I mean,
He needed that for
Trackhouse
sure.
has that, the one-trick pony type thing that it's starting to become, right? Because Chastain's been getting all this great press, which he deserves. But I think Suarez really needed that, particularly in, the leaderboard. Like, he needed to kind of get those points, yeah.
So Trackhouse stays hot, granted not with a win, but Suarez with the P2 finish is very, very reassuring for me. And then also want to talk about RFK, another team that I picked to win outright, plus 850. Both their cars looked incredible, and I know I feel like I'm a broken record saying this every week at this point, but those guys truly are knocking on the door. Busher and Brad Kay both looked really strong. They look to be some of the best Fords in the race, and they both led a pretty good amount of laps. So, and also I think Brad Kay, I mean, I know I just said the race, I was content with the way that it ended, but if it were to go on, I think Brad Kay would have been a fucking rocket ship, and he really seemed like he wanted this one.
He's
Also
such a stud, Brad Kay. Like, every race he's in, at some point he's going to, like, be in the top 5 out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, is Brad Kay going to win this?
I used to not be a Brad K fan, but at this point, I just have to respect the effort he's consistently putting forth, as much as it might not be like I said, consistent with my previous opinions. That being said, two other overs I'm going to throw at you before I give you one under, and that's JJ Yeley and Justin Haley. I know the names rhyme, but these guys showed the fuck up, and it deserves some credit. Justin Haley, I mean, he had a great performance at Chicago, and now he follows it up here at Atlanta. He finished 8th. And then JJ Yeley, a guy we're used to seeing run at the back of the pack, finished 7th, and he looked strong as hell. So both those guys I was really impressed with. And then my last over is just, me kind of nailing the script, as much as Quiggs won't admit it. And then the under I'll take is just Kevin Harvick. He finished 30th. Stuart Haas kind of continues to struggle. And I had pretty big expectations for him given his history at Atlanta. And granted, it was, it's been reconfigured. But he is the king of Atlanta. And also the whole intro with the 29 car and the 4. I don't know. I would have loved to see Kevin Harvick work some magic here, and we really didn't get that. So unfortunately, going to take the under on Harvick. What did I miss, guys? Who else
I agree with that. I think we might touch on it in the picking the tires segment, but I don't think Kevin Harvick's going to win this year at all. I think he's going winless. I just don't think he's. I don't know.
Unfortunately am starting to.
On the track this week, he's pretty good at. There's been a lot of tracks we've run on that Harvick has historically been good at, and he just hasn't shown up on any of them.
I'm still a believer. I like maybe Richmond or something like that. I think, and bet against me, you should, because obviously the odds aren't in my favor. But man, I think it's going to be a great headline. Oh, and congratulations to Brad K. His wife's pregnant. I think they're trying for a boy. He's got like 2 beautiful little girls. So, he's still going in raw. What about Ricky? Ricky on a super speedway, P10. I mean, that's good, right? The Daytona 500 winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., getting P10 on what we consider kind of a super speedway. And, I know you'd mentioned Justin Haley, but, Allmendinger. So that's Kaulig, right? So 2 people in the top 10. That's great for Kaulig. There were no Toyotas in the top 10. No Toyotas this week in the top 10. Closest Toyota was Denny, who I think was P14. So if I'm going to look at an under, I think I'm looking at Toyota again. And then Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott needs to get going now. I mean, we're officially at a spot in the season where Chase Elliott needs a win. We were all under the impression that maybe he could point himself in, but it doesn't seem like, with 11 race winners so far this season, since Byron had repeated as his 4th time. That helps Chase a little bit. Having SVG win last week, that helps Chase win a little bit. It doesn't take up another spot, but he's starting to run out of options. He needs to get the fuck going. All right, so we touched upon Atlanta. We thought that I think we all agreed that it was a good race. Perhaps there was something they could have done at the end of rain, but it's rain, right? It's something that everyone has to deal with, and unfortunately, NASCAR is soluble in water, so they're doing their best. We're going to bring up now a guest. We're going to bring in Jessie Punch. You guys know Dr. Jerry Punch as being at Legend, who's been in the pits for a long time. So his daughter is also becoming a NASCAR staple. So we're about to go 3 wide with Jessie Punch. All right, so NASCAR is filled with, I don't know what you call family dynasties. Like right away, the Petty family jumps to mind. Obviously, the Earnhardts. If you think about the Allisons, there's just so many of them. And I think we're going to add one more to that list, and it's the Punch family. So Dr. Jerry Punch was in the pits for a long, long time. He was a staple and a legend in NASCAR, and now his daughter's following in his footsteps. We have Jessie here with us today, Jessie Punch. She does everything, right? Produces, hosts. She's out there when we get to the track. She's out there just with the headphones and a microphone, just trying to get as much information and as much entertainment as she can for NASCAR out of these drivers who can sometimes be boring sons of bitches. Jessie, welcome to the show. We're 3 Ride with Jessie Punch. I'm going to get started if that's okay. We're just coming off of Chicago. Spider and I were just talking about Pockrass not really breaking the news. I knew another guy who kind of broke the news about NASCAR going to different venues, possibly after this Chicago contract is done. Looks like we'll do at least one other year, perhaps 2. Is there any place that you could see as someone who's been to just about every track, that you'd like to see a race be run, either here or internationally, that NASCAR hasn't tried before?
Oh my gosh. I think there's a million places that NASCAR could still really break into as far as markets go. Before I delve into that though, Large, I didn't want to interrupt you a second ago, but I would be a terrible NASCAR fan if I didn't pull the Punch family name out of your list of Petty's, Allison's, Earnhardt's. That was the kindest introduction. And the foundation that my dad laid in the sport is something I'm so proud of. But both of us would say, oh boy, by no means are we deserving to be in that list of names. So thank you. But to go back to your question, I still think there's a lot of markets that NASCAR could break into internationally. I know maybe looking at some markets maybe over in Chinese or maybe interested in stock car racing. But here in America, I think I'd love to see a race around Soldier Field. I think that might be pretty neat. But also continuing to revive some of these short tracks, I think is very important that we continue to do. I don't want to dump all of our eggs into one basket just because 1 year of Chicago street racing went well. You know, I like that we can continue to go back to our roots, like, and revive some of these short tracks too.
So we're a little bit like halfway through the season, a little bit more, if you will. What are some of the highlights you think of this season? Like, what do you think the storylines are, the best things that happened? If there's any history that occurred that we witnessed, what is it?
Oh, gosh. I mean, witnessing history, this has been a phenomenal season for that. And the irony in it being NASCAR's 75th season is just perfect. Between going back to North Wilkesboro and starting the season, so I don't know what's going on with my camera, but starting the season here, racing again at the Coliseum and then on the streets of Chicago. History's being made everywhere. Storylines, personally, a guy like Ross Chastain, I have loved seeing the development of him this year because it's not anything new to have, you know, success from him on the racetrack and have a little bit of aggression from him on the racetrack. But the maturity that we're seeing from him, we're kind of watching him come into his own as a driver and as a driver for Trackhouse. And I think that we're just seeing the beginnings of Ross Chastain kind of figuring out who he's going to be in the long run in the Cup Series. And I'm excited about that.
I'm going to move backwards. When I had said that you're a family dynasty and then you chided me for it, like your dad is a legend, right? And to have you in the sport is very cool. Is there something about growing up around NASCAR where everybody else at Christmas was looking for a G.I. Joe, a Barbie, or, you know, a teddy bear, and you were asking for like a Rusty Wallace die cast? You know, is that the type of household that you grew up in? Because Spider and I, Quiggs, Liam, everybody involved, Chase, with us, we didn't grow up in like traditional NASCAR households, but I'm assuming that the Punch household had to be that way. How much was NASCAR crammed down your throat as a kid?
We have a television in just about every bathroom of my house growing up. TVs were on at all times.
That's a flex, Spider. She got TVs in the bathroom. Holy shit. The Punch family's doing very well. What the fuck?
It's not a flex. It's just a very normal thing when TV pays the bills in your household.
That's true.
Yeah, you know, as a family, we were always kind of trying to pour back into the sport because we recognized everything that the sport was able to provide for us in so many different ways. So, you know, even down to always just ordering the pizza from the sponsor that was on the race car was very much, NASCAR was very much present in my household. But I can't really say that I had the same kind of childhood as some of the other drivers or people that grew up in the sport, because my parents were very, very big on my brother and I having our own lives and kind of being our own people and not feeling like we had to just fall into going wherever my dad needed to go or doing whatever he needed to do. So it was funny because we were, you know, growing up, going to Catholic school, but I was also the only kid in my grade that had a go-kart in my garage. So kind of a weird balance there, but very much a racing family growing up, and I loved it.
So your dad has obviously an extensive history in the medical field and then just decided, you know what, I love NASCAR as well. He's raced, he's done everything. And now you kind of do the same. You know, you host, you produce, you're super involved in the sport from a bunch of different kind of opportunities or jobs, if you will, responsibilities. If there's one thing you haven't done that you want to do in the sport? What is it? Can we see Jessie Punch behind a wheel one day like her father was?
That's a great question, and that is absolutely my answer. I would love to drive a race car. My dad would never let me drive a race car, but you know what? I think 29 is when you're finally allowed to start making decisions for yourself. So sorry, Dad, I might have to disobey on this one, but I just, even growing up, he was like, you can talk about him, you can't drive him. I gotta do it. I got the opportunity to do a ride around or ride along with my buddy Kaz Grala. His dad has a 2-seater, and we went and took some laps at VIR up in Virginia a couple years ago. So that was the closest thing I've had. I mean, riding in a race car, it was incredible. Oh, it was amazing. But I probably should learn how. No one will take the time to teach me how to drive a stick shift. So I think that's step one.
Yeah, when you find the person to cut your teeth with, let me know, because I'll be in the back seat as well. I would love to. We should do like an all immersive class or something.
Sounds good. I'll sign us both up. I think I can sort something out.
I love it.
I have to admit, I won't be invited. I'm too fat to drive. Whatever. That doesn't really matter.
You could be our spotter, Lars.
I'll have to be. 7 races left in the season. Here at Rubbin and Racing, we like to objectify women for their knowledge in NASCAR. So I'm going to pepper you with some questions. Does Chase Elliott get a win before the end of the season? And then other than Chase Elliott, what driver that hasn't won yet this season do you see getting a win? And possibly at what track do you see it? Go.
First of all, thank you for objectifying me. It's truly an honor, March. Chase Elliott, yes, I do think he will get a win by the end of the season. By the end of the regular season, I don't know. I have to look at the schedule. Give those couple weeks off, man. They really made more of a hit on his season, I think, than a lot of us anticipated. Just having to get back in the swing of things. But drivers that I still think are going to get their first win this year, Brad Keselowski. I think that he is going to get it in that 6 car. He's been there. He's been close. He's a great super speedway racer. So we've still got Daytona up ahead. And he's pretty good at New Hampshire, too. He's one that I'd keep an eye on, and we can touch on that in a bit. But that's somebody that I think could still get a win this season. And when he does, it is going to be so exciting. First win as a team owner for that team. It's going to be an awesome one.
This weekend, headed to New Hampshire. I'm a New England guy myself. I know Large is relatively Northeast as well. New demographic for NASCAR fans, kind of like their only, view up there for the time being. What is special about New Hampshire?
New Hampshire, the mods race up there a lot. So NASCAR fans up in New Hampshire are probably way more familiar with the modified world than they are with kind of the stock car world, or I should say the Cup Trucks and Xfinity Series world. But New Hampshire's cool. They call it the Magic Mile. There's a lot of different elements that kind of have to play together for a driver to be successful. I heard Joey Logano say in an interview last week that you have to be the best of the worst at that track. You're never going to walk away from racing in New Hampshire and be like, yeah, I nailed that one. You're just going to walk away and think, okay, I did the best I could with what I had. There's long sweeping turns. There's areas on the track that have got some bumps that are going to be challenging for drivers. So it's kind of one of those where I don't want to say experience comes into play, but the ability to manage a lot of different challenges successfully is really the key to New Hampshire.
I don't want to
winning at
Go ahead.
Winning at New Hampshire, you get awarded one of the coolest trophies in NASCAR, in my opinion, a giant lobster. If there's other trophies that you would love to have in your trophy case alongside the giant lobster, granted it probably wouldn't hold up that well. What do you think some of the best trophies you can win in NASCAR are?
Well, first of all, the lobster is such a cool trophy, and you joke about it not holding up that well. I'd have to go back and see if they still do this, but I do know that they used to. After the driver gets the lobster in victory lane, they take it back, and the company or the track or whoever it is that provides it takes all the meat out of the lobster. They actually mount the shell, and then they give the meat back to the driver. So pretty cool, like victory dinner, especially for us down south that don't get to eat lobster a lot. That one's got to taste pretty good. But hands down, the guitar at Nashville. That's what I would want. A beautiful painted guitar. There's so much history behind that trophy, and I just think that would look so badass on a wall. I mean, that's the coolest trophy.
Speaking of trophies and winner circle type stuff, we just saw William Byron get his 4th win of the season. Is that big hat bullshit overdone, or do you think it's still something they should be? I've got gimmicks that I use, the wine glass on the head. I've done probably way too many times. I'm starting to get a little sick of the big hats. How do you feel about it?
I'm starting to get a little sick of the big hats. Here's the thing. I hesitate to say that, though, because to me, the big hat equals their attempt at personality, right? Mm-hmm. And that I don't mean that in a negative way. I think that we could probably highlight Williams' personality in a better way. I think the big hats are very much overdone, but I don't want this idea of Victory Lane celebration, themes to go away, because that's something that has gone on in our sport for so long, and wearing a big hat doesn't equate to smashing a watermelon. I think we need more of that. We need more backflips off of race cars like we used to see from Carl Edwards. We need more watermelon smashing, less big hats, but still more personality in Victory Lane. That's my opinion.
I you know what? I'm going to go out and defend Willie B. I know you said the personality thing, but he's a pretty shy, humble, collected guy, and I think that's really one of the few times we get to see him break character and really enjoy himself. So I'll take the other side of that, guys. I'm Team Willie B all the way. And given that I think Large and I now both have championship futures on him, I'd love to see more of the big hats.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think like Willie, when we had gotten to interview him the first time, he was surprisingly, I don't know if it's surprisingly, but he was pretty energetic. Like they seem like they let their guard down a little bit when we interview people, particularly on Barstool. Logano is a perfect example. Like, Joey Logano has really opened up with us. I know you speak to many more drivers than we do. Is there anybody that you spoke to in your career who is surprisingly, I hate to use the word interesting because that implies that they're boring, but there are any drivers that you spoke to in your long career, right? Your extensive long career that were surprisingly entertaining to you?
I think the biggest thing I've learned in my career, and it's actually something that I will compliment myself on. I don't do it often, but I feel like I'm able to kind of match the driver. If you have a dry personality, I'm gonna dish it right back to you. It's a little bit of kind of that earning respect thing. So a couple drivers, I don't know if you guys are super familiar with Ryan Newman. He's not running full time anymore, but he's one that was kind of notoriously a stickler. But I always loved working with him because it was about going in there and dishing back the same dry, maybe controversially disrespectful attitude. And it broke down that wall of like, okay, this is going to be fun, and it's a little bit of that. But so he's kind of one that I think people would be surprised to know that I really enjoyed working with. But somebody that people need to keep an eye on is BJ McLeod. Do y'all know BJ?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, but we've never had him on the show. We haven't had him on the show yet, so we haven't opened up. Like, we have a thing who we want to have him on our back at a bar fight. Spiders is Earnhardt, right? Jeff Earnhardt, because he's an MMA guy. You're Josh Williams, right? Because Josh Williams sort of like a brick shit house. Who did you say, Quiggs? McDowell. And I said BJ McLeod. He looks like a crazy son of a bitch. He wears the Affliction T-shirts. Talk to me about BJ McLeod. What's the secret to this guy?
See, and that is where you're wrong. BJ is the nicest guy. He's got 2 Pomeranian pups that he carries around with him at the racetrack. He looks like he rides in on his Harley, but he's got his flip-flops on. The man can't ride a Harley in flip-flops. Right. I mean, BJ McLeod is unapologetically BJ, and that is what I just love about him. He is the nicest, most hardworking man that you will come across. One of the most hardworking men you will come across in that sport. But, like, that man never fails to surprise me in the way that he shows up to things. Whether it's, like you said, the full bedazzled Affliction T-shirts or the slicked back greasy black ponies. It's something else, but he's so kind. He's definitely worth getting to know. But I love BJ. I just probably would not tag him in my bar fight, to be honest with you, Large. You might want to call in a ringer.
Okay.
So, Jesse, I'm of the opinion that 2 of the best races we saw this year were this past weekend at Atlanta and then early this season at Fontana. Would you agree with my take that those are probably 2 of the best races in terms of excitement that we saw? And if so, what other tracks do you see upcoming that you have highlighted for maybe similar levels of excitement?
absolutely agree with you. I think that the Atlanta race that we saw this past weekend was some of the best racing we've seen all year. And what goes to show in that, it wasn't we had a stellar finish. We had a rain shortened race, but that was a great example of how rain is just a factor in this sport. Weather is a factor that you kind of have to play into. It's a strategy. And Willie B and Rudy Fugle played the strategy best. They played the weather game best. So it really wasn't like we had some photo finish. We just had stellar racing at Atlanta. And this is only the second year we've been there. And we're already seeing these guys really take it to each other on this new, really reconfigured track. I'm so excited to see the future of that racetrack. I think it's going to continue to be one of the best on the schedule. But because of what we saw at Atlanta, I think Daytona is going to be fabulous. Knowing that it's the cutoff, knowing that there's going to be guys still looking to get themselves in the playoffs, because there's a lot of guys that still haven't won this year that I know have the expectations on themselves to be battling for a championship. Under the lights at Daytona is going to be top notch, in my opinion.
And we'll see you there. Spider and I will be there for the Daytona race, so we're looking forward to that. We're going to let you go, Jesse,
cool.
But before we do, I know that you guys aren't huge gamblers necessarily, but we are. Can you just give us an idea of who you think we might be overlooking this weekend in New Hampshire if we were to throw a couple of shekels on it?
For sure. Yeah, I don't know if you're overlooking them, but as I mentioned before, definitely keep an eye on Brad Keselowski at RFK. He's got 2 wins there, and he has like the best average finish, if not one of the best of the current guys there. But Christopher Bell, he's only got 1 win there in the Cup Series, and he won there. It's the defending win. But when you look at his stats in New Hampshire, he's got 3 wins in the Xfinity Series and a truck win there. So I don't know how that equates. His knowledge of the racetrack seems to be there. If he can handle this next-gen car and put it all together, I think he might be another one to keep an eye on.
Perfect. I'll put the house on it. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on. We invite you back whenever you feel the need. We can't wait to see you at the track and look forward to talking to you further. Have a great day, okay?
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate the time.
Take care.
That was Jessie Punch. Daytona.
All right, so that was Jessie. She's wonderful. Spider, I know that you're closer friends to her than I am, but every time I see her at the track, she's always so goddamn, I don't know, she's very inviting to us. Is inviting a creepy word for me to say? Probably is.
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's extremely friendly, and I think she knows a lot about NASCAR, so it's great to have her on. I hope she comes back at some point. As we were setting up, trying to figure out what we're going to talk about this week, Spider had put in front of us that, we whenever we're talking about the race, we almost inevitably talk about paint schemes. I know we did the paint scheme draft a couple of weeks ago, and we probably could have each had another 20 picks during that draft. But I think it's worthwhile, Spider. I think it's worthwhile talking about what we saw and what we didn't see from these paint schemes because, I don't know, it's a cool part of racing. Last week, we casually saw the Coke skin around, Denny's car. I had mentioned Chase had the children's hospital that he does every year where one of the young patients draws essentially his paint scheme. So there's always something pretty cool going on paint scheme-wise. So going into New Hampshire, is there anything that jumps out to you, Spider, on what's going on with these paint schemes?
No, I was just going to shine some light on last week's great schemes.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Each week we should pick one of the best ones that we saw take the track. And you pointed them out. The Denny Hamlin Coca-Cola scheme was perfect. I know he's usually a FedEx guy, but I love seeing kind of diversifying, and he looked great in the yellow or the red, in the 11 red Coke scheme. I also think you got to shine some light on Chase Elliott's hospital scheme, one of the best recurring things we got going in the sport, letting these kids design the car, one of the most, the strongest cars, if you will, with Chase's 9. So I think that's great. And then also I just want to show some love for Eric Almirola, who was on the pole this week. And he had a great looking ride. Usually we see the Smithfield 10, black and white. And the back half of it included IHOP. So I think it was a nice little parlay between both of them. I'm not sure if IHOP serves Smithfield bacon and sausages or whatever, but the car looked good. Usually it's pretty black and white, like I said, for Eric Almirola. So to see a splash of color mixed in on the back half of the car was really cool.
It did.
Those were my
Oh, wait.
Go ahead, please.
The Almirolas, it did look very cool. It didn't look very IHOP-y. Like, it was not IHOP colors, right? It was kind of like had like silver, red, and dark blue, kind of.
Yeah, I'm not
liked
familiar
it.
with IHOP's color scheme, but I thought I don't know. I liked
Is
it.
that fat joke?
That was a fat joke. Yeah.
I'm not as familiar as you with IHOP's color scheme.
No, I actually didn't. I didn't mean that. But yeah, in terms of my favorite schemes of the week, I'm going P1 with the Coke scheme, P2 with Chase's hospital scheme, and then the Almirola in P3. Did I miss anything? What?
No, I don't think so. But can I give you 2 to look out for this week?
Yeah, please.
Drumstick. Like, I love food on cars. I love food on cars, and so I love Ricky Stenhouse. His schemes just about every week. Drumstick, which we all order at the Ice Cream Man, right? The iconic drumstick ice cream cone. So
he had a Slim Jim one last week that I thought was pretty cool too.
Every
week I love this. Yeah,
he's got his own choice of sponsors. He could just walk into a convenience store or a gas station and be like, you know what? I'm hungry for a drumstick. I need a Slim Jim. That's going on my car this week. And that's kind of really goals. I love how he always seems to play the hits with his schemes.
So I'm a huge fan of Stenhouse's food cars. But I will tell you, look at the 47 this weekend. And on the roof by the 47, there's a small cartoon character on it, right off the side of the 7. And he's sort of lounging on the back part of the roof. And I hate him. Its Drumstick has a mascot who's Dr. Umstick. Like, they just put a period after the R, and he's their cartoon mascot, and he's absolutely awful. So if it's, the English muffin car, I'm down to fuck. If it's a Slim Jim car, if it's a Drumstick car, I'm down to fuck also. But I got to be honest with you, I think I'm out because of Dr. Umstick. Look for him. He's absolutely annoying. And then the second,
I wish you didn't point that out.
I know. And the second car I want you to look at, Suarez this weekend, the 99. He's got Pitbull across the whole hood because Pitbull just dropped the Trackhouse album. His last album is called Trackhouse. So across the hood, it's actually a picture of Pitbull. I don't know what. Yeah, I'm assuming it's in front of Miami's skyline, and it looks pretty cool. And on the back, on the side door, it says SLAM. The SLAM Foundation is the foundation I think Pitbull started a couple of years ago, and it opens up charter schools. So it started in Miami in 2012, and since then it's expanded to 14 tuition-free charter schools in Florida, Nevada, Georgia, Texas, and Arizona. So if you see the 99 SLAM, it says, almost like the Onyx video, with the big Trackhouse album cover across the front, that's the 99 this weekend. So it's just something to look out for. I got one other thing to look out for. One of our sponsors this week is FX, and this episode is brought to you by FX new show, Justified, City Primeval. I love Justified. Justified, one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite shows. Timothy Oliphant as Raylan Givens, Walter Goggins as Boyd Crowder. Great characters, and it's a great show. So it went off the air. It finished its run, I don't know how many years ago, and now it's back for a limited series. I highly recommend this. It's based on a best-selling Elmore Leonard novels, and Timothy Oliphant is back as Marshal Raylan Givens. His hair is grayer, his hat is dirtier, but while balancing life as a U.S. Marshal and part-time father, a chance encounter sends him to Detroit, where he crosses paths with the Oklahoma Wildman, a violent sociopath, and his powerful defense attorney who finds herself caught between cop and criminal. So I'm telling you guys right now, July 18th on FX, this thing starts, and you can stream it on Hulu. So it premieres on FX July 18th, or you can stream it on Hulu, and it's Justified, City Primeval. The original Justified, one of my favorite shows in the world. City Primeval, I will be front and center watching it. All right, so with that, let's go into New Hampshire. Right? This preview of New Hampshire is brought to you by NASCAR. So this is race number 20 this season. By the way, the season is flying by. NASCAR goes from Valentine's Day to essentially Thanksgiving. The season is flying by. My life's going by just too quick. This is the Crayon 300 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, a 1-mile flat asphalt oval in Loudon, New Hampshire. It's called the Magic Mile, as Jesse had told us just before. This is 301 total laps. 301. So the stages end at 70, lap 185, and 301. Why is it 301? Because in 2008, organizers added an extra lap to represent the then sponsor, Lennox Industrial Tools, was looking for users and suppliers of industrial tools that go the extra mile. That was their slogan. So because they were looking for people to go the extra mile, they added an extra mile to it, and they changed it to the 301. So even though it's no longer done by Lennox Industrial Tools, it's still the extra mile at the Magic Mile. That's stuck. That's what we're going to do. The trophy, as we mentioned, is a lobster. It's provided by Macris Lobster and Steakhouse. Jesse alluded to this. The restaurant selects the largest lobster in the tank. It weighs 20 pounds or more. The driver takes a picture with this lobster, and then afterwards goes back to the restaurant. They cook the shit out of it. They take all the meat out. They give the meat to the pit crew. The pit crew gets all the meat. Then they take all the shells. They send it to a taxidermist who puts it back together, mounts it, and that's your trophy. That's number one for me.
That was great insight. That was great insight. I didn't realize that all those things happened. I thought they just handed them a giant lobster and then that was it.
Yeah, I think it's the best trophy in NASCAR. I'm a little bit biased because I'm fat.
I think it's very cool. I don't know if I didn't, but I feel like it's right in line with like.
It's better than that big fucking stone guy that I hate.
Oh, that thing.
We'll have to do. We should do on one of these episodes like a trophy draft with the NASCAR. I don't want to tip any picks, but I'm not sure the lobster would be my number one. As much as I love shellfish,
but it is in Large's lane though. It's a very large.
That's
thing
true.
To like.
You want to know what's in Quiggs's lane? After winning the race in 2008, Kurt Busch donated his lobster to the New England Aquarium. Holy lib stool fucking Kurt Busch.
I'm anti-aquarium.
Right? He doesn't want to do it. But listen, what?
I'm anti-aquarium.
Okay, so, but the thing is, so Kurt Busch says, no, I don't want to kill the lobster. He had won the race before, so he already had the trophy in his defense. So he's not a vegetarian lib. But he sent the lobster to the aquarium, and the lobster died en route onto the aquarium. So fuck him. Fuck the lobster. It should have been cooked. Christopher Bell is the defending winner and the favorite to repeat right now, I think. I hadn't seen the latest one.
Yes, he's the favorite.
Yeah. Logano was the youngest winner ever at this track. He was only 19 in a rain-shortened race way back in 2009. And like I had said, it's a 50% chance at least of rain on Sunday. We're taping this as of Wednesday afternoon, so maybe that changes. We're going to go to picks, but before we go to picks, I'm going to give you guys a tiny bit of twisted history, because when you're watching a race at New Hampshire, particularly at Turn 3, just know that 2 people died in Turn 3 within 8 weeks of each other back in 2000. So back in the racing season of 2000, within 2 months, 2 drivers died in the same turn. That hasn't happened before. The first was Adam Petty. He was the 4th generation of the Petty family to drive in races in the highest division of NASCAR. As far as anyone can tell, that was the first 4th generation athlete at the highest level in any professional sport. Like, Ken Griffey Jr., like all this kind of stuff. You can't find 4 generations of people to compete at the top level of any sport except for this gentleman, Adam Petty. He was the son of Kyle Petty. His grandfather was the King, and his great-grandfather was Lee Petty, who was one of the early pioneers of NASCAR and also an absolute stud. But on May 12th, 2000, in a practice session for the Busch 200 race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Petty's throttle stuck wide open going into the 3rd turn, causing his car to hit the outside wall head-on, killing Adam Petty instantly. And he was only 19 years old. So that's tragic. His father, Kyle Petty, who I had said, was driving the number 44 car at the time of his son's death. Right? He chose to take over the 45, his son's number, for the remainder of the season, and then he used number 45 in the Cup Series throughout the rest of his driving career, which I didn't know. So that was sort of like a tribute to his son. And then the second death came in the same corner at the same track 8 weeks later when 1998 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year, Kenny Irwin Jr., during practice for ThatLook.com 300 New Hampshire, slammed head into the wall, same exact way, and died instantly of a similar skull fracture to Petty. Irwin was 30 years old and died less than a month before his 31st birthday, and in that race, Tony Stewart wound up winning, and he donated the trophy, the lobster, to Irwin's parents. So, just keep in mind, when we're talking about turn 3, that took the life of 2 drivers within 2 months back in 2000. All right, that's a little bit morbid. I apologize. Let's go to something a little bit happier, and that's Picking the Tires, brought to you by the Barstool Sportsbook, which should be up and running in time for the races. What do you guys got?
I'll start off, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
I got 2 picks. I'm going to take Joey Logano 15-1. And I'm also going to take Brad K 23-1. I know Jesse alluded to his success at this track. And the other guys I'd be considering would be like Kevin Harvick. But at the same time, he's plus 900. I have a very hard time swallowing that pill based on the recent performance we've seen by Stewart-Haas Racing. So for that reason, I'm going to ride with the other guys. Like I said, I think Brad K's been knocking on the door. And given his track record here, I'm willing to take a flyer on him, especially at 23-1. That's pretty juicy. And then Joey Logano 15-1. I think he's one of the best drivers. As much as he's kind of, what does he have, 1 win this year? So I look for him to build on that, and I think this was a great opportunity for him to do it. I'm riding with the Fords this week, and if I had to go outside of that, it'd probably be Martin Truex, who's plus 650. And I know, Large, you refused to take him, but the thing is, I'm trying to make up some ground in this with my units here. So that being said, I'm picking a little bit juicier guys with Joey 15-1 and Brad K 23-1. Those are my picks. 2 outrights this week, guys. What do you got?
Mine, I'm very similar to your thought process. I am Truex plus 650. He's the best driver in this race at this track that's never won. I think he has, in the last 10 races, 250 more laps led than anyone else. I think he finally gets it done. And then I couldn't pass up on Brad K. Brad K is really good at this track, and the odds are plus 2,300. I'll put something on him. And then I have a top 10. Eric Jones, top 10, plus 400. I think plus 400 is pretty good odds. I think he has maybe 2 top 10s at this track, and in his past 3 races, he's been at least top 15 in all 3 of them.
Been like 11, so I love that. Yeah.
And there's just been a few races where he's like in the final 3 laps, picked up a couple spots and finished 8th, 9th. So I like that at plus 400. And then I have an Xfinity pick, Austin Dillon plus 1,200. 6 races there in Xfinity. Top 5 in 4 of them, top 10 in 5 of them. I think he could win it there. I kind of want something if there is rain for Xfinity, so that's what I'm going with.
I'm taking Larson. I'm going to take Kyle Larson at plus 750. I wanted, to pick an outright winner, and I wanted something a little deeper because there are some real short odds this week. Outside of Larson possibly winning, I am taking Toyota at plus 130. I know Larson drives a Chevy, but I'm going to throw some money on Toyota and Larson to win. Those are my only 2 winning bets. Brad K, I was going to try to grab him at top 5, but I think I'm going to tighten that up to top 3. I've been pretty good at betting people to win who've come in 2nd and 3rd, so I'm going to bet Brad K, a little bit tempered from you guys, and I'm going to still get him at plus 650. Top 3. That's not bad.
That's juicy.
Yeah, so I think that's the one that I like the most. Listen, I'm not giving up on Chase Briscoe. I love Chase Briscoe, the whole deal, and I just want to root for him again. So I think Chase Briscoe, he does pretty well at short tracks, and I just want to root for him. So I'm going to take him for a top 10 and still get paid 2-1. So plus 200. Plus 200 Chase Briscoe, top 10. Plus 650 Brad K, top 3. I like Larson to win at plus 750, and I'm going to throw some money on the Toyotas to win just because it's kind of a Toyota-ish track, even though they shit the bed last week. This is a much better track for them, so I'll take them at plus 130. Is there anything else we have to cover before we go, guys?
I may add something to my card depending on when all the lines get added. I think I'm going to fade Harvick hard here.
Okay.
Because his odds are pretty good. I think head-to-head matchups, I'll take whoever's going against him because, I don't know, I think he'll just finish 14th here.
I don't know why you guys think that we can all of a sudden, without talking about it, pivot to an anti-Harvick podcast. We're starting to get very.
That's not the case.
We're getting very negative on the old man, and it makes me nervous. Right?
It's been a negative season for him.
Okay, we're still fans, but we're just not. I mean,
I don't know.
Think that
maybe my expectation, he's been good up until this season. He came out. He's like, no fucks given. I thought he was going to win like 5 races this year. The way he was talking, and he just
and if not, I thought there was going to be more headlines around him.
Yeah,
like maybe he would, it sent Chastain into the wall or something like that. I agree, but I still think that
there just hasn't been a week where he's almost won, or we thought he could pull it out and win. Really, has there?
Yeah,
I don't
he's
remember
been in contention for a couple. I'll
I
look
don't
back
think
into my
so.
notes. You know what? Next week I'm going to defend Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
I don't like him this week, and
we'll do a Harvick debate.
But we are. We're going to have
trash
a
him.
debate. That's it for Rubbin is Racing. I urge you guys to follow us on social because I think it's one of the better ways to catch up during the race and beyond. And we still have a sweatshirt in the store if you guys want to spend some money in the middle of the summer on a gigantic sweatshirt. But that's it. We'll see you guys. And we're not scheduled to be at a race now. Our next race is going to be in Michigan, I believe, right? Michigan's the next one up for us. We're going to be co-grand marshals at the Cabo Wabo 250 in Michigan in a couple of weeks. And other than that, we'll see you next week on Rubbin is Racing.
Peace.